Hello, everyone, and welcome to this full guide on nutrition. So, I spent the last 3 years, some part of my time, trying to figure out diets and getting information on the internet and my own experience. And since diet and nutrition is a very conflicted topic on the internet, and it's pretty hard to get um, holistic information about all different approaches and facts. For most people are specifically tied to like one specific um, diet. For example, like vegans say you have to be vegan and being vegan is healthy and meat will kill you. And some people are on the carnivore diet and say, oh, well, the carnivore diet is really good and I feel great. And plants are probably bad for you because I feel so good now. And yeah, like real scientific information and unbiased knowledge is hard to come by, just as I have found. If you found otherwise, then you probably don't need to watch this video, so you can go somewhere else. Um, so in this video, I will first talk about the components of food. So the macronutrients, the micronutrients, what food basically consists of on a chemical level. Then I'm going to go into some recommendations for food intake and what foods you should avoid to live longer, basically. And at the end, I'm going to make kind of an overview of some um, exclusion diets. So I'm going to go at the end into vegan diet, ketogenic diet, and paleo diet, and what I think of those. Also, how to perform them. And yeah, that was the introduction. And I think I'm going to start with the macronutrients. And the first one is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are chains of sugar molecules in a different length and different types of the sugar molecules. So sugar also falls under carbs, and sugar, what we usually call sugar, are in fact two sugar molecules just connected. We have one um, chemical bond between carbon, oxygen, carbon. So it's basically just two molecules, and this, of course, thousands, millions of time, depending on how much sugar you consume. But that's like the smallest, not the smallest, but like the chemical unit that makes up sugar. And carbohydrates are also sugar molecules, but in a way sort of longer chain. For example, the carb you can find in, for example, lentils are a rather slow digesting carb. So one could imagine that that was a very long molecule of sugar. Oh, is it the right wording? A very long molecule of, yeah, very many sugar molecules connected to each other, so several thousand probably, and maybe also connected in a way that is harder for the body to split. So what happens if we digest sugar is the molecules, uh, sugar or carbs, is the sugar molecules get split, and then when there are single sugar molecules, they are then absorbed into the blood. And we don't want sugar molecules to get absorbed too fast, because the body works in a way of regulation. So every compound has a specific range in which it can exist in the body without not good consequences. So if we consume a large amount of raffinated sugar, for example, these two sugar molecules get split very fast, and since there are really many of them, all of them get absorbed into the bloodstream. And then the body is, hey, we have really much sugar. We don't want that much blood sugar. So what the body does, it releases insulin. And insulin tells the cells to take in sugar from the blood, so as to reduce the sugar concentration inside of the blood. Thing is, our cells can only hold a specific amount of sugar, and if the sugar count in the cell is full and we have still too much sugar in the bloodstream, the cell then transforms sugar into fat and stores it, and then takes more sugar in. So this is what leads to the buildup of body fat, basically, and also fat inside of the, or not inside of the, but on the edge of the blood vessels, as those cells are the first ones to absorb the sugar, and then those build basically fat blobs around the blood vessels, and those can then lead to injury of the blood vessel, clamp of the blood vessel, and then in extreme cases to heart attack, and this also this brain thing, when blood vessels in the brain get clogged up, and basically what happens is you don't get oxygen in the tissue behind the clotted blood vessel, and basically the tissue then dies off because it has no oxygen, and we don't want it. Also, too high insulin could lead to insulin resistance, which then leads to diabetes if not taken care of. So basically, we want to consume a carbohydrate that is absorbed as slowly as possible for not developing these problems. So the use of carbohydrates in the body is quite simple. It's production of energy, and that's literally the only purpose that carb has. It's energy. We don't need carbs to survive. In fact, a nutritional practice called the keto diet is completely without carbs. We're going to go into that later on more detail. So carbs are found in plants mostly, and also in low amounts in dairy, on like yogurt and milk. So this is lactose, the milk sugar. Then we have fat. Fat molecules consist of one glycerin molecule connected to three could be different, could be the same, fatty acids. And the type of the fatty acids determines the exact use and health or health benefits or disadvantages of the said fat. So fat is the fat is the most dense energy form that living things can produce, basically, as 1 gram of fat translates to 9 calories, while 1 gram of carbohydrates and protein relates to 4 calories. So fat is above 2 times as efficient at storing energy, which is also why the body will store overflowing energy as fat. And fat is also used as a hormone. So most hormones are kind of products of fat, so we need fat to produce hormones. This is why there are essential fats that we have to consume that the body can make itself. So we have to eat fat if we want to survive, basically. We can't live without fat. Yeah, and also in some animals it's used as a warming tissue, especially probably brown fat, which we also have in some amounts. Brown fat can thermally regulate the body, so it can produce heat, basically, if we're cold. And one can also stimulate the brown fat to become more. And brown fat also kind of controls the metabolism. But this is not about brown fat, it's about nutrition, so that's how far I'm going into that. But it's a term of heating tissue in animals and of course humans. And how healthy it is determined by the type of the fatty acids, omega-3 being the one that we generally lack in our modern nutrition. So there's the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. So we have too much omega-6 and too less omega-3. And one should aim to consume as much omega-3 fatty acids as possible to obtain health benefits. So fat is contained in fatty meat and fish, also in animal products as eggs, milk, or cheese, but also in some plants, not in all plants, but for example in soy or in all nuts, we have pretty large amounts of fat. So then we're coming to protein. Protein is a molecule that is. So proteins are used in basically all cells in some way, either for enzymes or for the cells themselves, for muscles. So protein are basically the ground component of which the body consists, which is also why animal products like meat are mostly made out of protein. and it's of course essential. So some of them are non-essential, meaning we could synthesize them from probably other proteins or from sugar or fat. Although there are some atoms in a protein that are not in sugar or fat, for example, sulfur and nitrogen atoms are contained in protein. So the protein has a basic structure that is the same in all proteins, but it has also basically an attachment that is different from protein to protein, and the amino acids. Amino acids are basically the smallest units of proteins, and those have differences among them, and the makeup of the amino acids inside of a protein basically determines what the protein what health benefits the protein has. But protein in general is healthy in actually any amount. I mean, if you only eat protein, it could be bad, but there's not really much downsides to consuming even large amounts of protein. Yeah, so it's used to produce enzymes, to repair cells, to repair and build muscle, especially. And certain amino acids have specific health benefits. For example, isolated L-glutamine has benefits for digestion, and other isolated amino acids might have other specific benefits. I'm not going into every benefit of the specific amino acids. That would have to be maybe another video on supplements. But proteins basically are contained in actually in probably everything except maybe seed oils and things like that, or butter. And yeah, it's more isolated in animal products, while in plants it's mostly connected to a larger part of carbohydrates and eventually fat, for example in nuts. So in plants, protein is mostly not the biggest not the most concentrated macronutrient. So it's a more isolated form inside of animal products, mostly. Then we have fiber. Fiber is a macronutrient that is actually not really a nutrient. So we ourselves can't digest fiber. So why should we eat fiber if we can't digest it? Well, we can't, but the bacteria inside of our gut, or so-called gut microbiome, is capable of digesting fiber and gives us basically health benefits through digesting said fiber. So basically it's a type of carb, but one that we can't digest, but our bacteria. And it provides several health benefits. Studies have shown that for each 10 gram of fiber that one consumes, the general mortality lowers by 6%, and there seems to be no upper cap, so you can basically consume more and more and more fiber and get more and more and more health benefits. So consuming as much fiber as possible might be a good idea if you want to live longer. And it's contained in all plants basically in some amount. Of course, the amount is different from plant to plant. What has specific high fiber is lentils, some some have higher, some have lower, but it's not contained in animal products because animals don't produce carbs. Basically, they only produce protein or they have carbs in the glycogen storage somewhere. So if you were to eat that from an animal, you'd probably get also carbs, but I don't know. You can just eat plant. What am I talking about? No, I'm stupid. There's no fiber in animals. Okay. So now that we got the macronutrients covered, we're going to dive into the micronutrients. And micronutrients are nutrients that basically only make up a very, very, very small amount of the total mass of what you consume. So probably 99% of what you eat will be either macronutrients or water, and only a very small part will be micronutrients. So these can be divided into different categories. One is minerals. Minerals are positive and also some negative, but mostly positive, charged atoms. For example, magnesium, calcium, potassium, all of those are basically single atoms missing one electron, or two in case of magnesium and calcium usually, and they are water soluble, so they dissolve in water, which is present in basically all kinds of food and also inside of our body. And they are used as coenzymes, so in order to activate or use specific enzymes, they are used in the body because of their positive charge that can attract basically negative parts of amino acids, and also inside of our nervous system as basically a means to steer and to transport charge. So like electrons are in a computer, for example, these minerals and positive ions and negative ions for that matter are used as kind of signal components inside of our nervous system to basically to use all of our nerves. So this is why a lack in salt or other minerals might cause neuronic neuron no wait will cause problems with your nervous system basically. So then yeah, you can consume as much of them as you like because they are also hydrophile, so water soluble, so they can be just excreted amongst urine. But one should not consume an excess amount of salt, of natrium chloride, that is. I'm not sure if that's because of an imbalance of natrium and potassium. And if you had the equivalent amount of potassium, if you could consume higher amounts of natrium. But yeah, you don't have to worry about getting too high mineral amounts from food, because it would be very hard to get into any overdose of minerals. The source would be mostly plants, and especially fruits and vegetables. Then we have vitamins. Vitamins are specific organic compounds that our body can't produce naturally. I mean, he can produce vitamin D, of course, but only under sunlight. Which we need to consume in order for our biology to function in a very good and effective and long-term way. So the list of all vitamins is we have vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, and different types of B vitamins. So vitamins should be consumed in high amounts basically. You can go too high with some vitamins if you overdose on supplementation of fat soluble vitamins, so vitamins that are lipophile, that can accumulate inside of your fat tissue. These are vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So these can be overdosed. The other ones will be just excreted with urine as for minerals, if they should be consumed in a too high concentration, too high amount. And they're mostly found in plants. Vitamin B12 is made from bacteria that live inside of the ground. Most plants have therefore no vitamin B12 because most of these bacteria were destroyed in the progression of the industrialization and use of fertilizer and pesticides and stuff. So this is why most plants nowadays don't have vitamin B12, and animals are getting mostly synthetic produced vitamin B12. So in animal products we find B12 today. But if we were to consume only plants without those in the earth living bacteria that are absent in most grounds, we would not get B12, and we should supplement it if that's the case. So then there are also probiotica, something among those lines, which is basically just a fancy word for bacteria. As I mentioned before, we have our gut microbiome that benefits from fiber, and in order to improve our gut microbiome and basically support or make healthy bacteria to colonize our gut, we should or can consume fermented foods. That are basically foods that are made by bacteria by fermentation, and those bacteria are still alive, and if we ingest this food, we also ingest the bacteria that can then colonize our gut. So eating fermented foods with living bacteria is beneficial for our health. And one should, if you want to eat more or any fermented food, it's recommended to do a ramp up period. So to first eat a little bit and eat a little bit more, and to adapt. The same goes with eating more fiber actually. Then there's also like the thing that's summarily called antioxidants and other helpful organic compounds that are found in plants. This is basically everything else, and this is the reason why some specific plant products are very healthy, is because of certain helpful compounds that when ingested have beneficial reasons, that have beneficial effects on our biology. So anti-inflammatory substances would lower the systemic inflammations out of our body. So local inflammation is good to fight infections, or for example at wounds we have inflammation to kill invading bacteria, but we don't want whole body inflammation, although it's caused by stress and also probably perhaps pollutants and chemicals, microplastic, just things that are present in the world and in the food that we ingest that cause basically inflammation. And we basically want to reduce our systemic inflammation as low as possible, so the body has resources to do other things, and it would be helpful to ingest as much as of those anti-inflammatory compounds and other healthy plant compounds as possible, and they're found in plants. Of course, what plant it is has different organic compounds that are of different use. Now we are going to go into the substances that you should not consume if you want to increase your overall health. First off, we have everything with added sugar. This means the sugar cane sugar or industry sugar, fructose that's added. So fruits are okay, I believe. Sure, you will have a bit of sugar, and if you're going to follow a ketogenic diet, it wouldn't be good for that. But apart from this, fruits do have health benefits that I believe to be substantial despite having fructose. But everything with added sugars, also soft drinks or fruit juices, has just sugar without any additional worth. Even like fruit juices have, I believe, very much higher amounts of sugar than if you were to consume a correlating amount of fruit and have less valuable micronutrients. So that's one thing you should avoid. Also, probably all processed foods. This means foods with a long ingredient list generally have all kind of unhealthy substances, such as preservatives or like taste enhancing substances, whatever. Like if you can't decipher everything that is written on the ingredient label, then you probably shouldn't buy it, or or look it up at least to see what it actually is you're putting in your body. And if it would take too much time to look it up, it's probably not worth it. Then there's wheat, and also like wheat products such as pomade, as long with other grains. So other grains are better than wheat, I believe. Still, everything with gluten has kind of a negative influence somewhat compared to other plant foods, I believe, but it's better than wheat. So wheat has especially a very high glyco glycogen index, glycemic index, and because of that, we covered that already. But it has this high index because it's very like bred to lead to an increased amount of food production, and somehow this worsened the health outcomes of consuming this. Then non-organic foods do contain more pesticides, more like artificial fertilizer, things like that, especially pesticides, toxins, even genetically modified plants could also be non-organic plants depending where you live. And genetically modified plants will often have even higher amounts of pesticides because they're made resistant against one pesticide, for example. And this will be then used to kill everything else on the farmland. So if you can, it would be wise to buy everything organic, even meat and animal products, as non-organic ones are often fed with pretty bad foods that then also will influence the nutritional value of the animal product, and they will also have more higher levels of, for example, like stress hormones and things like that, because they're kept very very stressful, very bad for the animals basically. So, and also they're fed with antibiotics and with like food supplements basically, because the food they get is not nutritionally adequate for them. So it's at average, I believe, about 50% more expensive, organic foods. Um, Varying from food to food though. So maybe some types of foods are only 10% more expensive, or even about as expensive as non-organic foods, while other foods will be double as expensive as the non-organic counterparts. So if you have the money though, I'd advise to buy organic foods for the discussed health benefits, or for not getting the health disadvantages of non-organic food. Then artificial sugars, um, those are somewhat better than normal sugars because they don't lead to insulin and to getting fat, but they might have a negative effect on the microbiome. So while they might be better than sugar, they're still worse than nothing. So they have a total negative influence on health. So yeah, if you need something sugary or something sweet, consuming artificial sweeteners is better than consuming normal sweeteners. But if you can just cut it out altogether, that would be the most beneficial procedure. Then we have plastic packaging. This is a pretty hard one, pretty hard to avoid because almost everything is packaged in plastic these days. And it's bad because most plastics, or some plastics, probably depends on the country you're in, depends on the type of plastic, which you can't really see in like a supermarket. At least I think that there's nowhere a description on what plastic is used for the food packaging. So it's kind of hard to see that actually, and to avoid unhealthy plastics. But all plastics could potentially have their compounds leaching into or onto foods that you buy and cook, and many of them are endocrine disruptors, meaning they will influence your hormones, especially male and female hormones, so estrogen and testosterone. Reduce those and have influence on fertility, and also muscle building from reducing testosterone, but mostly fertility, which is pretty important, as our testosterone as men, for example, is lowering since decades, and that's problematic, to say the least. Also, another reason of this is, I believe, is the hormones in our water from, for example, the anti-baby pill, like hormone medications that usually are not filtered by the like water cleaning installations. So you might want to install a water filter if you want to reduce those substances. But I'm getting kind of sidetracked, so we're going to continue with other things not to consume. Alcohol and other drugs. Well, yeah, alcohol is a pretty bad one. Other drugs, I'm not that sure how bad they actually are, but they're affecting your neurotransmitters mostly. So it would depend on the amount of consumption, how bad they would be from a health perspective. So of course, don't do anything that's illegal in your country. That's like basic. But alcohol is, I think, the worst one for whole body health. The others could have problematic effects on the brain if consumed too much, but I'm not really an expert at psychedelic substances, so yeah. Also, if you have problems with sleeping, you might try to not consume coffee too late in the day. So only consume it fairly early on, like I think 1-2 hours after waking is optimal, and not too late. So just observe if you have sleeping problems when you consume coffee later in the day. You might avoid coffee. So then we're going to talk about what actually to consume, because I just told you everything that you shouldn't consume, and yeah, what would be better? So there's green tea. Green tea has numerous health benefits for your general system longevity. So if you enjoy hot drinks, green tea is a very healthy option you can use if you want to improve your health. Then variety of different types of fiber from plants is best to create a diverse microbiome, and as much fiber as possible from as many sources as possible would be the optimal procedure to maximize benefits from there. Then fruit and vegetables. As I said, if you have a problem with the fructose from fruit, then just eat vegetables, or eat fruits with lower sugar or higher antioxidants and micronutrients. Berries are pretty good, I presume. Then water. There's an average recommendation for the first 10 hours of waking. That is 239 milliliters per hour for the first 10 hours after waking. And afterwards as much as you feel you need. And there's also an amount while training, which is 2 milliliters per kilogram of body weight for every 15 to 20 minutes of training, replacing the amount per hour if you train in the 10 early hours of the day. Then if you want to build muscle, you should consume up to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. There's like the first diminishing step in the protein consumption. So till 1.6 grams, the protein will have the most effect, and afterwards, at 2.4 to 2.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, there's another diminishing step afterwards. It's even less effective. So it will still have an influence if you eat more, but it's like a saturation curve, which will like go like this, and later we're kind of here, where it's just very, very small benefit from additional protein. So then we want omega-3 rich foods, such as fatty fish, or certain oils original omega-3. Whale nuts as well, I presume. Very high in omega-3. So you want that because we have a very bad omega-3 to 6 ratio, and omega-3 is very healthy, especially the EPA, I think it's called. It might be also useful to supplement omega-3 because, well, it's hard to get an optimal amount from our nutrition only, and if we consume very high amounts of fish, those also will have substantial amounts of pollution, microplastic, things like that in them, and also like heavy metals and shit, because they're in the ocean and there's where kind of all of our trash goes. So supplementation would be advised. Then we have extra virgin olive oil. Organic would be best. There are also the health benefits of this vary from the quality of the olive oil and from the amount of certain biocompounds like flavonols and stuff. Yeah, but probably all extra virgin olive oil have some positive effect on cardiovascular health, on resistance against cancer and stuff. As I said, it depends though on the quality, so you might get informed into that and try to figure something good out for yourself. Also, we have fermented foods with living microbacteria, what the fuck, microorganisms, aka bacteria, that will improve our gut microbiome by allowing new bacterial types to settle in, basically. Yeah. Then, as I said, yeah, as much fiber as possible. At least some fat, as fat is essential, so you should get essential fat. Essential fats, basically. No fat or even maybe a low fat diet might be problematic, because, as I said, fat is needed to produce hormones in our body, and yeah, too low fat would be disadvantageous. And then calorie, the total amount of calories you consume should depend on your goal right now. If you want to build large amounts of muscle, you should bulk, meaning eating more than you burn, to have excess energy to build up muscle tissue. If you want to lose fat, you should eat less calories than you burn to have a calorie deficit. And also a calorie deficit, maybe 10 to 20%, is beneficial to not die, basically, because it will cause the body to recycle and improve certain things to preserve its tissue. So eating less is beneficial for longevity, basically. So I'm back at filming this after like 6 months of me being lazy and not wanting to do anything. So yeah, keep that in mind if my environment suddenly changed a bit. Yeah, so I think what was left are the different styles of diets, or some example diets that I wanted to present to you as a kind of choose your thing. Or of course you don't have to choose anything, but just examples that have certain benefits and disadvantages. So the first one is the paleo diet. This is basically what the Stone Age people would eat back then. So no processed foods, no sugar, no dairy, milk, cheese, any dairy products for that matter. You would be eating like meat, fish, eggs, fruit, some vegetables, and no pasta, maybe a bit amount of like rice and seeds and nuts and stuff like that. So what goes for this is that it's pretty easy to follow, right? Like if you see something in the supermarket, you will know basically straight away if that's something that our ancestors could have eaten in the Stone Age. So if you see bread, obviously they didn't have bread, right? And it's also pretty healthy compared to a standard diet, what like the average person eats. So it's a pretty good starter diet, I would say, to follow. It's considerably easy to get your protein in, if that's one of your goals, through meat, eggs. Yeah, so pretty good one. Paleo is pretty good. Then the second one is the vegan one, and I'm going to talk about this not from a ethical or ideological standpoint. Like many people these days tend to mix those kind of together. And like, oh, if you're not vegan, you're evil or something like that. But yeah. So obviously in a vegan diet, you're going to be eating only plants. If you're completely following it, that is. So no meat, no fish, no eggs, no milk, dairy products. Probably also no honey, if you want to go to that length. So the benefits of this are that you're gonna eat a lot of plants. You're gonna get a lot of vitamins, minerals, plant compounds that are good for your general health. The disadvantage is that it can be kind of hard to follow, and it's not necessarily healthy. So if you're eating vegan, but you're still eating like sugar, right? You could still, for example, just eat a donut if it's made with like not milk chocolate topping, for example. Or you could still just eat sugar. You still put sugar into your coffee or whatever because it's a plant product. So it's not a guarantee for a healthy diet. Also, it's very hard to get enough protein if you're on a cut and you're not consuming any animal products, except you use heavily protein powders, vegan protein powders that is, otherwise you wouldn't be vegan anyway. So like soy protein, although soy is kind of a ambiguous one. There are some people that say it might be estrogenic, some people say it's fine. I just don't really like soy in general, so I just avoid it. But yeah, you can get like pea protein or hemp protein, different kind of protein sources. And it's also kind of hard to really get into as a beginner and do it smartly. So I tried this for, I don't know, like 2 months, some years ago. And I was really stupid about it. I was like, oh, let's go over there and get these like dried fruit that have 50% sugar because, oh, they're vegan, right? So I can eat them. Obviously, it's vegan, but it's not healthy. And then I ended up trying to make like completely new meals out of plants that just didn't really taste too good. So please don't do that, right? If you want to go into vegan, which you can if you want to do that because of, a health perspective or an ideological perspective or an ethical perspective, do it, sure, but be careful, do it smart, probably get vitamin B, B12, check that you get enough of that, maybe take a test once in a while to make sure that you have enough of that. But if you do vegan smart, it can be extremely healthy and probably even the most healthy. This guy Brian Johnson does a purely vegan diet, and he says his data backs it up the most. So there's that. I mean, I can't really interpret everything that he in this team has interpreted, so yeah, but in general, I would say vegan diet, if you're done smart, can be extremely healthy. You have ample of fiber, micronutrients, so, but it's relatively hard to get into. So for starters, I maybe wouldn't recommend it if you're new to the entire topic of nutrition and diet. And then we have the complete opposite, which is carnivore. So I heard some, especially like Red Pill dudes, talk about this, like Hamza, and I think Jordan Peterson, although I'm not entirely sure about this, but definitely Hamza, he talked about this a lot. So carnivore basically means you eat nothing but meat, right? So first you might be thinking, wait, that's probably pretty unhealthy. And let me first go over some of the advantages that might have. For one, it's pretty easy to follow or to select the foods. It's basically just meat. On the contrary side, it might be a bit expensive because it's just meat. You will get ample of protein because meat is like, if you take low-fat meat, you basically have about only protein. If you take fattier meat, you'll have, maybe 50-50 out of fat and protein. So getting your protein or doing this on a cut to lose weight might be actually pretty solid idea. The people who did this said it was very good for their mental state, for their clarity of mind and ability to focus. And I do believe that in some extent, eating heavy or like high carb meals, especially if there's high insulin, are bad for your productivity and energy. But there are just plenty things that are missing in a carnivore diet, especially from a longevity health perspective. And these are fiber, minerals, and secondary plant components like polyphenols, antioxidants, all that good stuff. And basically anything for the gut microbiome, aka fiber and bacteria that we would find in fermented foods, which is mostly also plant foods, is just not there. So you're probably gonna be dying a lot earlier if you're completely on a carnivore diet for, your entire life. So for a short time, it's probably fine, right? You're gonna lose a lot of weight, presumably, if you are on a caloric deficit, because you have all that protein, you have no carbs. You might even go into ketosis, depending on the type of meat you eat, which is the next diet that I'm gonna discuss. But you're gonna have some deficiencies, also perhaps some vitamin and mineral deficiencies that are just not good to have. So I'd recommend doing like pretty regular tests on this diet if you want to do it. And also there was a study that it basically said total mortality was lower by 6% in people per 10 grams of fiber consumed. And if you're just eating meat, you have 0 grams of fiber a day. So yeah, there's that. So next on, we're gonna go into the ketogenic diet or the keto diet. I've both heard and read a lot about this in certain books about, productivity, health, diet. And this one is a very interesting one. Basically, what you're doing is you're consuming mostly fat, no sugar and carbs, and moderate protein. And you have to be very careful to not consume too much protein and too less fat at a certain time, because you want your body to be drawing energy from fat that is being transformed into keto bodies. These are like molecules, right? Usually our body burns sugar molecules to make energy. And on ketosis, your body uses ketogens to produce energy. And what this does is it imitates a fasting state in the body in which it recycles like damaged or worn down cells, stuff like that. And this is very regenerative and healthy for the body. And ketosis and ketogenic diet allows you to hold that state for a presumably very long time until you die, probably, if you do it right and want to do it. So this effect will go over a way greater span than if you just do a 1 week fast. And it could, so being on a ketogenic diet could even lessen symptoms or completely cure some mental illnesses. So there's like, I think it was about 1/3 of people have their illness completely gone after a certain time if they follow a ketogenic diet. 1/3 have the symptoms moderately to severely reduced, and 1/3 doesn't really respond to it. Was what I got from that. There was an episode on this on the Huberman channel, which I watched. And also, it might be very good against combating cancer, because cancer apparently feeds on sugar. And if you draw your energy from ketones, there will be no sugar, so you're basically starving out the cancer. And it's already being used as an addition in cancer therapy. So if you're having like cancer, this might be an option to consider. Please talk to your doctor before you do this for that effect, please. Like, I am by no means qualified to give you real advice on that. I can just say maybe this could work, right? This goes to anything I say in this video, by the way. So, don't just take my word for it. Go to other people, watch other videos, probably, or talk to a doctor if that's what you want to do. If not, that's on you, but don't just follow what I say, basically. It's always better to get multiple sources. Also, since your body gets adapted to burning fat for sustenance, going on a diet or trying to lose weight through ketosis is probably pretty effective. So if you go on a caloric deficit on a ketosis, you could potentially expect to lose more fat than you would if you try to lose fat on another diet with the same caloric and protein input. A neat side effect might also be that you might be able to hold your breath longer because your body needs less oxygen to produce energy. Just, most people won't get a benefit out of it. If you want to try that for a cool side thing, try it safe, right? Don't be stupid and drown yourself. Yeah, but that's just a fun little side thingy that you could do if you're on a diet. Like, right? If you're on a diet, you might as well try it out. And wait, I want to talk about something else. I kind of forgot it since I don't have my my script anymore, because after 6 months I couldn't find it. Well, that's a bummer. Was it something related to ketosis? Oh yeah, right. Ketosis could also help to eradicate any underlying cancer tumors existing within your body, because basically all the time there are cancer cells and your body is just strong enough to eradicate them straight away. But with time, your body gets worse at that, and more cancer exists, and so this will become a problem eventually at some point. And if you do preventative phases of ketosis, it might help to kind of flush out those cancers, those cancer cells, and prevent you from getting cancer in the first place. As I said, don't just take my word for it. Go do your research. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. So if you tried any of these diets and want to share your experience, go ahead and write them down into the comments. If you have any questions about stuff that's related to health or fitness, things that you need help with, feel free to write them down in the comments as well. I might do a video about it in like 3 months. No, maybe in 1 month or something. I don't know when next video will come out. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, despite it taking like half a year. If you liked it, you would like to see more of that, typical YouTube outro stuff, give me a like, subscribe to the video. Yeah, exactly in that order. I didn't misspeak totally. That was on purpose. So yeah, I hope you have a good day and see you in the next one. Bye bye. Good.